Good evening, Gals and Ghouls, and welcome back to another episode of Cryptic Insight. I am your host, Cedric, and this is my girlfriend, Jessica. And today we are going to continue our review of the Halloween series with Halloween Resurrection. We'll just kind of start getting right into it. This film, it's a very quick film. The more I watch this film, I will say I mind it less and less, especially with some of the other films in the franchise. I don't know, I feel like my opinion is always changing, but really just getting into some of the things that I liked about the film, kind of just starting with the beginning. The beginning sequence I think it was well shot, but overall the way they handled Laurie Strode's character arc was not something I really enjoyed. I think a lot of Halloween fans don't really enjoy how they handled Laurie Strode's character in this one, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and there's a lot of reasons why they did it the way they did. She didn't want to really do another one after H2O. She thought H2O was, as far as we've heard, she thought H2O would have been a good conclusion to Laurie Strode as a character in the franchise. But with contractual obligations, she had to, so they kind of worked around it and got her in for a little bit. But overall, just with everything legally happening behind the scenes, I don't like the way that Laurie Strode's character dies, and just at the beginning of the film, and anticlimactic for the character that we've been following for years. And but other than that, a solid opening sequence. They do a good job following up from H2O. I think they do a really good job just kind of pacing the shots and the story, and really kind of giving us an opening that at least grabs your attention. What did you think of the opening?
The opening, to me, I liked it. Definitely Laurie's death is, like you said, anticlimactic. To me, I necessarily look at it as too serious. I understood that she didn't really want to be in the series anymore after H2O. It was kind of a weak death, but made sense for the trauma that she had been through with killing someone she thought was Michael, and wanting to make sure that she didn't do that again. One of my favorite parts, though, of the opening is Harold, or is that what it is?
Harold is the inmate that knows a bunch of serial killers' names and information off the top of his head.
He was one of my favorite parts to that, because it makes so much sense to frame him for the murders. It was just interesting how that played out, because not only does Michael come back killing two security guards and then also killing Laurie, but just walks away, no one knowing the wiser that he was even there.
Yeah, it's a good strong sequence, and like you said, Michael gives him the knife, tries to frame him. I mean, obviously, if they wanted to, they could probably find his prints on it.
But he hands it to the guy who also doesn't have gloves on. Fingerprinting back then wasn't as good as today. It's easy to smudge off your fingerprints if multiple people are handling the same knife.
Right. Well, and then also there is a security cam footage too. Michael's on there, and I think a lot of people would know who Michael Myers is. So.
But originally, the security guards didn't even know it was him. They saw him on the cameras and thought it was Harold.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. But I think too, if you look at if authorities were investigating, I think that's one thing you could look at as a oversight, because overall, I don't really know why Michael cared enough to frame him. I mean, it doesn't bother me too much. It's just an interesting choice for the character. Like I said, I like the opening, so it's just something you kind of think about after. I don't know how many times I've watched this film. 7 or 8.
It's just kind of smart.
Yeah. So the opening is pretty interesting. I think the opening, though, is almost a bit misleading, because then we get into kind of the middle act, and what happens is we have these teenagers, not teenagers, probably college students. Yeah. We got Rudy, the cook. We got Jen, the blonde. We got the main character, Sarah, and Sarah's friend Deckard, who's over online chatting with her. Overall, I mean, not a bad cast, and I don't think, honestly, the actors are that bad. I really don't. I know this movie gets a lot of flack in the Halloween community. I think mostly because of Busta Rhymes or Freddy's character and the way they handled Laurie Strode. I think that's the primary reasons this movie gets a lot of flack. Because other than that, it's kind of found footagey. As you know, as we get into the later acts, we're not there yet in the middle act, but it is a bit found footage like, which I think is a bit jarring because again, we're still like in the middle act. We're introducing the idea of an internet show, and we're still not really. So the movie hasn't been shot in found footage yet, and so it's almost a little jarring when we finally get to found footage scenes through the lenses of the online cameras. Um, and so that's a little weird. That's a little interesting directing choice, I think. Um, Again, I don't think it's the worst thing I've ever seen, but generally you're not used to a film being shot like a normal film and then you go into found footage.
Well, they kind of jump back and forth. It's not like it's just found footage at a certain point.
Yeah.
They literally go back and forth between it being filmed in a camera and then like the kids watching, like Degra at the party watching the cameras on the TV.
Yeah.
It like goes in between a lot for the shots.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't really take me out of the film. It's just a little different from other movies. Most movies are either pretty much only found footage or normally shot, and so, I think a different film that does that is Scream 4, but it does it very minimally, and in only a couple scenes. But again, it's not really my big concern. We're in the middle of the film, and we're introduced to all these characters in Dangertainment, the online show where people go and investigate the homes of serial killers. That's not a bad idea for a show. I mean, I think with everyone's interest in true crime, I mean, even though like that was like 2002 or something, I think a lot of people were still interested in true crime back then. And the internet is just very new. He's talking about Yahoo chat boxes and chat rooms, and no one uses that anymore if you're chatting online. So it is a bit dated, but I still think that some of the relevancy of it is still there, and just the content that they're trying to really show off, because really some of that content's still very prominent today, especially like with true crime and people being interested in killers' lives. And I mean, just look at the Dahmer is like the last 5-6 years, Dahmer's gotten so many different shows and documentaries and all kinds of things, and so I think that's still very prevalent. So I like that aspect of it. What did you think of the middle of the film? I mean, we're introducing Dangertainment and Freddie and Nora in their show.
It's definitely interesting. I liked sort of the hidden aspects of Michael. Is interesting, like when Freddie comes in as Michael and then Michael's just like walking behind him.
Yep.
And the funny thing to me there is that he didn't just like kill Freddie right away. He's like, oh, you're telling me where your wife is. Okay, I'll go kill her.
Yeah, that's a detail. That's a detail I've watched this film like 7 times, and I didn't, like, you hear Freddie say, like, I left the back door open and go be with Nora or whatever.
Yeah,
and,
where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, and I remember just them cutting, like, at the very end of the film when Sarah was being chased and you see Nora's body. I'm like, oh, okay, an off-screen death. I wonder, like, that's just strange, I guess, but it's off-screen death, so it doesn't really need any explanation. But just now watching it, I just realized, like, Freddie tells him where to go and basically gives him the keys to go kill Nora, basically.
Yeah,
like, tells him how to do it, so.
He's like, yeah, go do that. But yeah, the middle is interesting. It's definitely, they didn't give a lot of attention to the characters very much. They were obviously there to be killed. Because, like, you, like, maybe hear their names a couple times, and certain characters get their names used way more than others. Like certain characters,
like the main 3.
Yeah, the main 3 characters that are friends, they get their names said the most. And even, what is it, Jenny or
the redhead?
Yeah, no, the blonde.
The blonde, yeah, Jen.
Jen,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Jen. Her name isn't said until they're actually in the house.
I still don't know
and
the
she
redhead's
screams.
name.
Yeah, I don't think I know her name either.
No, I don't know the character's name.
But
I'm sure it was said I think it was
maybe
probably
it was
said once, but yeah.
That's the hard thing, is like you don't pick up on that maybe necessarily, like when you watch it just like one time or like even a couple of times, it might not be like very obvious. So it was interesting how little attention they gave to the characters. The idea in general is interesting, sort of like a haunted house. Oh, a killer lives here, or had lived here, grew up here. This is where he killed his sister. A lot of those houses in real life, like in like the true crime world, get like torn down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it looked pretty run down.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of the times it's because of the victim's family, like the clown killer was mentioned at the very beginning. Gacy, yeah. His house was actually torn down, but they like rebuilt a house over where his house was.
Yeah, and it was also kind of funny that like Dangertainment, Freddy and Nora kind of plant a bunch of evidence or like things that they could find that like are clues as to why Michael Myers is bad. I kind of like that a little bit because I think it's like they know that they're not actually explaining the character, but they're kind of poking fun at the fact that a lot of people are kind of want to know why, or like it was a big debate in the community, and so I think that's a good little poke at fans. And
they're trying to explain why Michael did what he did.
Yeah, like everyone wants to know why Michael does what he does, but and so Dangertainment like puts around a bunch of clues and like fake colorings, and like I think they put like a weird like crib with a bunch of chains on it.
No, it's a not a crib. It's a high chair.
High chair, yeah, thank you. It's a high chair.
And then they have the one
harness
in the basement.
Yeah, the chain harness.
It's just interesting too because guy who's obsessed with cooking. What's his name?
Rudy.
Rudy. Yeah, Rudy. He like goes in the kitchen, like smelling the spices. He's just like, oh, that smells fresh. Like you can tell at the beginning that like clearly there's just a bunch of props being set up in the house.
Yeah, they're just kind of setting you up.
Yeah.
Which I mean, they make it painfully obvious. They're not really trying to be like, oh, this is they're like Jess said, they're just now at the beginning of their house tour. Rudy pulls out the spices, like, you ready for 40-year-old spice? And he's like, oh no, that's fresh. And so you're like, oh, okay, something strange. Yeah, something strange here.
Yeah.
But then the final, I think, so the middle act I think is pretty good. We get to the final act and we kind of neglected a little bit, but I'll run through it real quick because it's not that important. But Deckard's at the party and he finds a room, and that's where he logs on to a computer and watches the show. So that's only really important for later down the road when he starts helping her, because now we get into the final act and Michael starts killing everybody and everyone's kind of becoming aware of it finally. And
was it Billy who was in the attic?
Yeah. Bill or Billy dies first. Michael,
technically the camera guy dies first.
Well, yeah, the camera guy dies first. But Charlie, I think is his name.
Yeah.
So Charlie dies first, and then Billy dies out of the cast in the house, and then excuse me. I think Billy then I think it's Jen. I think Jen gets her head cut off then, after, because it's like a few minutes before the kills, in between kills, and then because Jen finds his body.
The redhead dies first in the basement.
Oh yeah.
She finds Michael's bed and the rats that are all torn up that he's been eating. Right.
Yeah. So he's been eating the rats. The redhead dies, and then I think Jen dies at the top of the stairs after finding Bill's body. And then they all think it's like, and everyone kind of thinks for a minute that everyone's faking because Freddy had just jump scared them as Michael, so they think he's still dressed up as Michael, and they think Jen, who tried to scare them earlier, is just trying to scare them again. Then they're trying to play into it, get views. But once her head comes off, they're like, oh, okay, this is real. This is the real deal. And I like that. Overall, I think the chase sequences were pretty good. I like Michael stabbing Rudy through the door with the multiple knives as like an homage to Bob in the first film. But their own little twist on it, in the kitchen with multiple knives.
Yeah.
I liked that sequence, and then I liked overall I liked that Freddy kind of came in, and because at first you're like, he's kind of just there for the fame and the stardom.
Yeah, he's there to make money.
Yeah, but like when shit hits the fan, he's there for everyone, and he's like trying to keep everyone safe. So that's kind of cool. I know a lot of people don't like Freddy for the ending of the film.
Well, I think it's interesting too because from what is shown in the film, like, he doesn't do all that much to Michael. Like, in general, like, upstairs, he, like, kicks him. And then the next time he tries to kick Michael, he just grabs his leg and throws him. And then, like, Sarah jumps on Michael's back, choking him with the camera cord. Again, Michael just throws her off. He goes out the window with the cord. They think he's just hanging there. And then Decker warns them that, he's not. And then the fight sequence out, is it a shed that they're in?
The garage.
Is the garage. So, the garage that they're in, like, it's not like he beat up Michael. He electrocuted him. And that's what threw him backwards. Because, like, when he tried to beat up Michael just threw him into the power switch box. What is it?
He just kind of threw him into a bunch of wood. And then there were some cords already.
There was cords there.
Yeah, because he grabs him and electrocutes him in the nuts to kind of come back. So, yeah, I don't think it's
as bad. Like, people are acting like he beat up Michael. And I'm like, why don't you guys go watch Kills and then tell me who beats up... Or Ends, sorry. We just watched Kills. Go and watch Ends and then tell me who beats up Michael.
Yeah, and, of course... It does still fall under the principle of, like, you basically, like, kind of emasculate Michael, but it's not that bad.
No.
Because Michael still fights back.
Yeah.
Michael still single-handedly with one fell swoop throws him aside.
Yeah, like, it's clear that Michael's stronger.
Yeah, and so Freddy just gets lucky and uses his environment to his advantage.
Yeah, and he's in a fire, so I think that's funny. He's like, burn Michael, and I'm like...
Yeah.
Jamie Lee.
I know not everybody likes his quirky lines either.
No, I
Trick or
could
treat,
see
motherfucker.
I could see that. He's definitely very like he takes you out of scenes at
He's
points.
Eccentric.
Because of the way he's speaking, he takes you out of it. It's definitely different. I think they were going for kind of like a Loomisy vibe, but he definitely just like didn't bring it into like any sort of like
well, it's not very
sayings.
Shakespearean.
No, it's not.
It's not very like awe-inspiring.
No.
It's just kind of Busta Rhymes.
Yeah.
Dude saying some quirky shit. So
he was just being himself in the
yeah.
film.
Yeah, you could definitely tell that he didn't. Normally, with a rapper being in a film like that, and the type of character he was playing, I feel like he was just more being Busta Rhymes than he was being the character. But overall, I don't hate his character, and I think Freddy...
he comes through in the end.
Yeah, he comes through in the end, but even earlier with Sarah,
yeah,
he talks her down.
He was like being... Yeah, but he talks her down because he wants her to be in the show.
Yes.
He didn't want her to leave the show.
Right.
But I think he really came through in the end. Like, he wasn't being mean, obviously. He's like, you better be in this show. But, like... He was definitely being nice and was helpful, but I think at the end he really came through in showing that he cared about these kids and he didn't actually want anything to happen to them. And when like shit hit the fan, he was trying to do what he could.
Yeah. So I mean, overall, I think it's a pretty solid film. We'll touch briefly here on the look of Michael Myers because we've done that in every other one, and we've been going for a little bit, so we'll just briefly touch on that real quick. Overall, not a bad look. I mean. The only thing that I don't really like about the mask is that the hair is almost a fro.
Yeah, they puff out his hair too much. And his eyebrows are really dark.
They're drawn on, that's why.
Yeah, I know.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, in the original, they're, like, painted over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there's just no eyebrows. That's why Halloween 4 and 5 are weird, too, is because...
Yeah, but the eyes are definitely wider. They're not like so narrow in this one.
Right.
I like the shape of the mask a lot better.
It's closer.
Yeah, it's much closer.
It's to the original, like the shape, not the hair, but the
actual
hair. Mold is closer
much
to
closer.
the original. I think
you can definitely tell they shaded it though. That it wasn't because of the lighting. It's that they shaded the mask.
Which is weird because they actually had some good lighted shots.
Yeah,
I mean, like when Freddy's talking to Michael, that was a pretty well lit shot.
Of him just standing in the shadows. I love it.
Yeah, so I don't know. I thought it was interesting that they decided to kind of shade it in a little bit, but overall, not the worst Michael Myers look. We'll go a little bit more into that. Stay tuned when we rank the looks of Michael Myers in a future video and finish up kind of our videos on the Halloween franchise here. We got 5 more movies.
Forever.
Yeah. So overall, I think though, I'm ready to give it a rating. Are you?
Yep.
So I'm gonna give it. I think I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5 tombstones. I know the movie is not a strong film, but I think it's not as bad as everyone says it is. Is it my favorite? Do I find myself choosing to put it in the Blu-ray player more than the other ones? No. But, gosh, it's one of those where you can put it on in the background and you're like, yeah, it's all right. You know, it's not really one that bothers me so much.
No, and I will give it the same. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. To me, it's like one of my guilty pleasures because everyone hates this movie, and I think it's okay. I have no problem with this movie. A lot of people have problems with it, but yeah, it's kind of like this for the Halloween franchise. This is my guilty pleasure, while Jason X is your
yes, and
guilty pleasure.
In Friday the 13th, I love Jason X, but we'll get more to that when we cover Friday 13th films, and that'll take us another year to cover those.
Yeah. Sorry, we are slow.
Yeah, we're slow, but we enjoy doing it. So, yeah, so a collective 6 out of 10 then. Overall, pretty good score. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. Leave us a comments down below. Tell us what you think. Remember that everyone's opinions are valid in the horror community. I mean, everyone's opinions are valid no matter what. Let's have discussions, not arguments, right? We know that we're probably going to get a lot of flack for saying that Resurrection's not that bad of a movie. It's really not, but you know, I think with the next one, you'll finally see us be very passionate about a film in the franchise that we don't like very much. So catch us next time for Rob Zombie's Halloween 2007 review. You know, it's a movie, and
they made a movie.
So that's a sneak peek into our opinion for the next video, and we'll catch you guys next time. Stay creepy. Thanks for watching.